My sister here.
Good evening, everyone. I think some of my recommendations, the elimination of these conversations, like it gets tiring. It's been a lot. We've been having these conversations for years. So if we get in tackling systemic racism, the institutions that should be prioritized would be education, welfare, and followed by police, because the education and child welfare systems are pipelines into the criminal justice system. And I think that the Anti-Racism Directorate should prioritize the following. So making sure there's adequate funding to support the implementation and evaluation of the recommended policies. Should have started with that. My name is Michelle. I'm a community member. I'm a social worker. And my work has also touched on the education system and criminal justice system. So I'm speaking from that perspective. Decision making and aid in the need for more equitable systems, services, and programs. In response to Assistant Deputy Minister Aries' discussion about the collection of disaggregated data, I think it should be mandated. I think that the education system, policing, and child welfare should be mandated to collect this data, because without the data, you're not able to analyze anything. And so really, they should be mandated to do that. It's a long time coming. With respect to investigating police officers, that's not going to work. I'm also suggesting that there is effort increasing the presence of qualified procurement contracts. Any work, any discussions that are steering these recommendations and policies should involve the voices and the presence of Black people, Indigenous people, people who are visible and non-visible dimensions of diversity should be at the table. Without the voices of the people who have the experience, you can't make adequate decisions. And I also just want to speak a bit about some recommendations for child welfare. And all of the systems ability is required. None of this, no policy is going to. Transparency was a problem. Parents and anyone that's involved in the system should be able to access from their home. People have to be accountable for those decisions. You have human beings. So the Child and Family Services Act, Section 11, does indicate that the minister an advisory group. But I think that given the overrepresentation of Black families in the child welfare system, that an advisory that to happen with First Nations people, it should also be applied to the Black community as well. And just my final point, excuse me. To decline the services of child welfare. Unless there is court involvement, people can decline involvement in the child welfare system. People should be informed of their rights. And I just have a quick question for you to consider. How are we going to hold you accountable for all these decisions and conversations that we're having? That would be my question.
work with the Toronto District School Board, and I've done that employment equity census that you were speaking about when you first opened this up. Prior to that, I worked for Children's Aid in Peel. In fact, believe it or not, Minister, I hate doing my job. I spend more time doing equity and defending it than doing the equity work. You're killing us in these jobs because the government refuses to mandate and makes us sit in these organizations to beg them to collect data, to beg trustees to get us data collection. It can't happen no more because no organization voluntarily wants to do the real work. 'ADM positions or any other position, make it mandatory that at least one person, when they have to get consulting firms and stuff to bring them a list, is a racialized person. Minimum standards to start addressing systemic racism, because we can't wait for organizations to say, give me a policy, because they're going to take 2 years to develop a policy. They're going to take 2 years to develop a committee to implement the policy. We're exhausted and we're tired because we've been repeating these things, and it's not up to organizations and institutions, because even the sitting at those corporate tables and the shareholders have said that they don't want women if they can't take. These issues have to be mandated. Data clearly, and I work for every single one of those institutions. Education. We don't need to hear. We need action done on these pieces. Tackling systemic racism. What systems or institutions in Ontario should the government address first and now? How many people from the region of Peel here? Where are the leaders in the region of Peel that are making decisions on anti-racism part of the public meeting, because they are the public? They're representing the public. Do we have to go to each institution to tell them what our issues are? Or are they going to come to a public meeting when we're here? How many places do you want me to attend? How many nights do you want me to give up for my family so that people can get it? That's tackling systemic racism. I want the minister to write a letter to every single major institution in the region of Peel asking why the representatives were here at the public meeting, because they're part of us. It's obvious how important the collecting of race-based data is. I think we made it clear it needs to be mandated right across all systems. And when we're talking about jobs, we can't leave it just to the government. You have to bring back employment equity legislation, mandate it into organizations, meeting targets and quotas because they can keep changing languages. They can take anti-racism, make it equity. They can take equity and make it diversity. They can take diversity and make it inclusion.